All right, now that we have gone over the listing questionnaire, how the seller fills it out, how you access it, we're going to work on gathering the rest of the information that we're going to need to put together a listing contract. So I have the listing questionnaire ahead of me. Next thing I'm going to do, log into MyBOR, I'm going to go to the Matrix website, and I always personally, I search to see if there is an old listing, a previous listing. And the reason I'm doing that is just, it's information gathering for me. In this case, there actually is a fairly recent listing. I can see this was listed in 2015, so I know that unless the seller has done extensive renovations to the house, I may not have to go and measure the rooms. Now, in this case, since this is our house, I know that walls have been knocked down, and so I know we do have to go measure. So you can't rely on necessarily the old listing sheet, but like I said, it's just part of having some more information. This particular information is more for your reference later on. It's not actually going to be a part of putting the listing contract together for you. What you really do want, though, and what you need is the tax information. So you're going to get to that either by going into the Realist database from your MyBOR homepage, doing a search for the property, or from the old listing if you have been lucky enough to find one. There's a little black icon here with a TX in it, and that also, if you click on that, will take you to Realist as well. So in this case, I've already happened to have it open. The main piece of information I'm looking for right now from this, and there are other things that we'll need it for later, is to look at the total tax amount, the yearly tax amount. So that will be here in this tax information box. The total tax amount is going to be $1,012. And this is the yearly amount, not the semi-annual tax amount, which is right above it. So I have that now. I have my listing questionnaire information. I am now going to go to First American's Costs First website. Here's the website for you if you want to jot that down, costsfirst.com. Now, this is going to give us title-related fees. It's going to help us figure out our prorated property taxes, which, maybe you are a math whiz and you're great at prorations. I'm not, so this really helps me with all of that. If you happen to be using a different title company, you prefer a different title company, or you're in a situation where you're making a net sheet specific to a certain offer that you got, you can still count on these fees to be close enough in the ballpark for this to be useful. I just find it a very, very helpful website. Once you've logged into the website, which I have, and you all will be able to create your own login so you can have your own access to this, you can there actually are a lot of really cool tools here. You can personalize the information that you're sending to your sellers. Here where you customize your prints. You can do a net sheet for a buyer. If you have a situation where your seller must make a certain amount of money, say they tell you, look, I've got to walk away from this with $25,000. Then you go to this place and you'll be able to generate, okay, well, here's what you have to sell your house for to make that happen. For our purposes right now, what we want to be able to convey to the seller is, here's basically what it's going to cost you to sell your house. So we're going to go here where it says sellers, just going to go into that usual one, and we're going to fill this out. And we are going to use these two pieces of information, this tax information, and what we have here in our listing questionnaire to fill this out. So I always start by putting in the name of the buyer. So in this case, it's prepared by Jamie Willis for Jamie Willis. I'm going to put in the address, which it wants to auto-populate because I actually have run through this a couple of times already. But typically you'll be typing that in. Where it says sale price, I'm going to put in their asking price, their list price that they've provided in their listing questionnaire. Now, when you get a purchase agreement and you are providing a net sheet based on the purchase agreement, which you should always, always, always do, then you'll enter that information very specifically from the purchase agreement. But again, what we're trying to give them now is a ballpark idea of what they're going to spend basically to sell their house. So for these purposes, under the buyer's loan type, I'm going to pick FHA. It's a pretty common loan type. There are some costs associated with it. They show up here where it says other costs. Just for your reference, if you get a VA loan, you see that your other costs are going to be like $985. They're just some additional fees. VA loans are not all that common, so I typically just leave it at FHA. You also can do conventional, and then you have zero extra costs. So I kind of split the difference going with FHA. Estimated settlement date. This is important when it comes to their property tax proration and also the proration of the daily interest that they're going to accrue on their mortgage as of the date of payoff. So since you don't know actually when they're going to close because you don't have a purchase agreement, you're going to pick a date probably a month or two in the future. So in this case, I'm picking a date late in January. It actually is November 10th in real life where I am. So that would be a couple of months. And, based on the market lately, at least, that's going to be about average anyway. So the next piece of information I want to fill in is what do they owe on their loan? And if I'm lucky, they've provided me that information in their listing questionnaire. Not everyone does. Some people don't owe anything, and some people are just not comfortable sharing it. So in that case, you have to stress to them when you send them the net sheet, because you've left it as a zero balance loan. Just make sure that they're very aware that that loan is not being accounted for, and if they want a better net sheet, then they need to provide you with that information. So I have asked for, and this particular seller, again me, has provided me with the rate of their loan. So that's important too, because what that is going to generate over here is based on the date that I, again, made up and plugged in here. It's telling me there's going to be 27 days interest, based on, I guess, a loan being due typically first day of the month or whatever. So they will have accrued a certain amount of interest. So that calculates that over here. In this area right here where it says annual property tax used for prorations, we're going to pull this number, this yearly property tax, $1,012, from Realist, and that's going to generate their estimated tax prorations over here. Okay, now the rest of this is pretty much going to be related to, well, not all of it, but a lot of title fees. This first section up here, this is title company stuff. This is the escrow or settlement fee. Typically, most of the time, probably, 90% of the time, you're going to get a purchase agreement that is going to ask to split this cost. What this is the fee that the title company is going to charge you to have that closing. First American charges $400. If you split it, each side pays $200. For the most part, in this net sheet, I'm not really accounting for any buyer concessions or anything a buyer might ask for. But just since that's so common, I usually just go ahead and say, okay, we're going to split that. All right, and owner's title policy, that's traditionally a seller cost. That's why it auto-populates in here. This number is actually based on the selling price of the house. So you can see if you're selling a house for $250,000, then you're going to be paying for an owner's title policy, and it's going to cost you $570. If, for example, we lower that price, though, you can watch it'll generate a lower price. Now we're only paying $380 for that. But I'm going to pop that back up to $250. Next thing is our commission. You want to make sure that you're accurate on the commission. Our typical commission is 7%. We do staging on most of our listings, the vast majority, at no additional cost. It's still covered in that 7%. We're not going to give them a staging fee above that, but we do split unevenly with the other side. Most listings you'll find, as you're looking through the BLC at listings, you'll see a lot of them are 3.5%, and you can pretty much 3.5% to the buyer's agent. I mean, you can pretty much count on you are splitting that evenly with the buyer's agent. Sometimes if you see, or the seller's agent, if you see 3%, you're probably splitting it even. Some people don't do an even split, and we don't because we spend a lot of money doing the staging and the photography, etc. So you want to make sure that you have a 7% commission in there, but so that you're being really straight with the seller, you want to go ahead and split that out so that they can see, okay, 4% to the listing agent, 3% to the buyer's agent. And this is also covered and accounted for. There's language about it in the listing contract, but make sure you get it into your net sheet as well. These fees down here, this is all title related stuff as well, but there are a couple of areas where there might be like something a buyer asked for. For example, a home warranty. This auto-populated with $350. They actually usually cost at least $100 more than that. But in this case, I don't really want to account for one at this point in the process. If we get a purchase agreement, a buyer asks for one, I do want to account for it. Another thing that I don't want to account for in this case, because we have no HOA, there's an HOA transfer fee. Those tend to be $125 unless you're selling a house with an HOA or you're selling a condo. You don't need that fee in there. So I'm going to get rid of that. Now, you can customize how these amounts generate. Things that are like title company fees, you really can't, but as far as like home warranty, HOA transfer fee, if you want to set it so that it auto-populates for you with a 0 in there or, a $510 home warranty, you can do that once you have your, your own login. There, it's actually kind of customizable what comes up for you. So that basically is how to fill that out. And what that is going to tell the seller is, okay, if I sell the house for this, I'm going to net about $135,000. It's going to cost me about $19,000, and I'm going to also be providing to the buyer about another $1,088 in prorated property taxes for taxes that have accrued and have not yet come due. So once I get this, I want to save it because it's really good to have these to go back to. So I'm going to go up here where it says options and look at the little menu icon. I'm going to come down, I'm going to save it. Once I have saved it, I'm going to go back there because I'd like to have a PDF of this that I can share with the seller. So I'm going to go here where it says email quick estimate, email detailed estimate. You're going to get basically the same information. You're not really going to get extra information. I like the format better for the quick one. Feel free to email both to yourself, have a look, use whatever you like best. So I'm going to email this to myself, just so you can have a look here. Go into my email, there it is. I'm going to open that up. And this basically is what I'm going to share with the seller. What I'm going to do is put this on the dot loop, and the very next video will have some information about how to set your loop up and what that's all about. But in the meantime, this is what their net sheet is going to look like. They're going to get this. We've customized it, which again, you'll be able to do as well. When you set up your own account for Cost First, you can do that. And it breaks down all the costs down in this area, and then it kind of gives them sort of a master breakdown up here. So that is all I wanted to show you right now for this video. So on the next one, we're going to, now that we've gathered all the information we need, we're going to go ahead and make our loop. We're going to add our documents, and that will be that'll basically be how we anyway, see you in the next video.